It's time for another road trip. Today, I'm meeting a friend for lunch up in the mountains. So if you didn't know, Atlanta is actually in the Appalachian Foothills. So we're very close to mountains, they're absolutely beautiful. A lot of waterfalls, a lot of great hiking spots, and just a lot of very cool creeks to hang out in the summer to stay cool. Right now, we're just a little bit north of the city of Gainesville, and that area, it's known for poultry, all the chicken farms, processing plants, a lot of manufacturing. Wrigley's Mars is there. There's I believe it's one of the speedways. Atlanta has two racetracks, and Atlanta Motor Speedway, I believe, is the one up here, and you can do a lot of drive, like you can pay and you can drive on the racetrack and stuff like that. They have little training stuff. It's a pretty popular event for a lot of people. It's pretty close to Lake Lanier, which is a pretty large lake, and it was a dammed lake. It was actually, they kind of moved out. It was a black neighborhood, black community that was kind of kicked out to put in this dam. And you'll see a lot of YouTube videos about Lake Lanier because it takes a lot of people's lives every year. Yeah, a lot of people drown in the lake. So the belief is that it's the ancestors paying back people for taking their land. So, just like, they were pretty much ripped off. Pretty much ripped off in a big way. Oh yeah, there's a lot of this White Sulphur Farms, all natural beef and pork for sale. You can order whole, half, and I believe even quarter cows here. But they've been around for a long time. There's a lot of agricultural land around here. You should start seeing the mountains soon. I was back in Gainesville. There was a spot where you could actually see the mountains from a higher point. So I'm going to do a shorter video on this. One of my favorite spots up here. It's kind of like a lookout, and I just like going there and looking out. It also has some historical significance that was a big deal up at Tallulah Falls way back when, and hopefully they'll still have the placard there that commemorates that event. We shall see. It's been a while since I've been there. Chris and I used to go hiking up here a lot, pretty much every weekend in the fall a few years back. Then I had a fall because that's what I'm good at. Chris is so funny. We'd go up there in the fall, and I was always conscious like bears are wanting to like bulk up for the winter. So I took bear spray. We were on a trail once, and I saw some fresh bear scat. So I told Chris, I'm like, we need to go around, go the other way, and either find another trail or something, or find another spot to hike. And he's like, no, let's keep on going. I'm like, I am not going where there is fresh bear scat. No way, no how. finally listened to the voice of reason. But that was a pretty cool spot because there are 2 trails you can take over there, and there are remains of, what was it, back in the 40s, one of the, they had infrastructure projects going on. And so you can see some of the remnants from that, where they were trying to build infrastructure in the economy. I think it was more of a camp for workers who were working on bridges and that type of thing up here in the mountains. So, yeah, it's just really beautiful up here. That's the thing about Georgia. The landscape is so vast. You have the agriculture all over. But, you go down south, it's pretty flat. You get a lot of clay, and then it turns to sand the closer you get to the border with Florida. You get the palm trees, the weeping moss. It's just lovely. And then the mountains, of course. You have the mountains, the waterfalls, great camping spots, wonderful clear creeks, great fishing if you like trout fishing. I've done some trout fishing up there, and that was weird for me coming from Florida. Like, I was used to largemouth bass fishing, and fishing up here is totally different. In Lake Lanier, you have the big striper bass, which you have to have a certain kind of rig. It's kind of deeper water. Then you can go up into the mountains, and you'll find smallmouth bass and trout. So different skills are required for certain. And then, of course, you have the coast. So we have the coastal area of Georgia, Tybee Islands, St. Simon's Island, Amelia, Cumberland Island, and of course you have a lot of seafood and saltwater fishing there, and of course the historical area of Savannah, one of the first 13 colonies. So Georgia is very diverse and very, very lovely. As much as I love Florida and the springs and all that has to offer, I really love Georgia. It's equally interesting. Wineries, agritourism. There's a lot of that around here. A lot of cops on the road today. I don't know what that's about. There sure are a lot. I've probably passed 9 already today. Not sure why everybody's on high alert. But they are. Excuse me. Farm market. That's a pretty cool place. They have events all year round, but it's a huge pumpkin patch farm. They're kind of known for their strawberry ice cream and their fried peach pies. They have a lot of canned goods, jellies, honeys, that type of thing. lot of little farms out here like that where they serve food or locally canned items, jarred jellies and that type of thing. If you're a cottage industry here, they finally started allowing individuals to work out of their house and provide certain food products for sale. So it's a process. So you got to go through licensing, you have to be inspected. They actually bring inspectors to your home to get approval to do that. There are a lot of rogue sellers, but without licensing, without health inspections. But one woman in our area has done really well lately. She got her cottage industry license and food inspection. She's rocking it. She's got Valentine's Day stuff coming out. She's doing sourdough breads. Okay, up here on the left, is this it? Yes. It's called the Bus Graveyard. And a lot of people stop there. They are, a lot of them are painted. A lot of murals on the buses. So people will go there for photograph opportunities. I know there's a film that was done there. Probably more than one film done there. In fact, that film would be Deceased. I believe it's available on Amazon right now. It's a zombie movie. It's one I went to the premiere for. Up this way also is Helen. It's a Bavarian looking community where all the buildings look German. And Oktoberfest is a huge, huge event here. But it's popular year round. They have some German bakeries. They have country stores, candy stores. They have a year-round Christmas store, some decent restaurants. And in the summertime, they have inner tubing. So you can tube on the river. Again, it's very clean, very clear. Allergies are getting to me. You run into city limits, you really have to watch your speed a lot. We're in the city of Baldwin now. We're headed up towards Clayton. We're on highway, well, it was 985, and then it ends into county roads pretty much. There's a lot of army training that goes on up here. Mount Yona, it's a popular place for rappelling. So that gets used by the general public and by the military. Not so much over here, but I know there's where I used to go primitive camping. There's also some military training that takes place over in that area as well. So here you go. You have Helen and Unicoi State Park. Now, you met my old roommate. He's working up here at one of the resorts. I haven't seen him in a while. I think since we did that, what did we do? Asian treat taste test or whatever. I haven't seen him since then. We've talked, but I haven't seen him in a while. He's been busy working. He's a chef. Usually when we talk to each other, we're always talking about food, even though it's his day off. It always turns to food somehow. Imagine that. Up here also is the town of Clayton. And the town of Clayton, it's pretty impressive. I mean, for as kind of remote as it is, they have some pretty amazing restaurants. I believe it's Fortified I've eaten at. It's a farm-to-table type restaurant where they buy locally and kind of create the dishes off what's available seasonally. And they have some pretty amazing food. In fact, there's a specific rice out of South Carolina. Now it was, there's a state trooper. There must be another one up here, because I don't know why he'd be sitting there. Unless he's clocking for somebody over on this side. But it was the first time, so there was a rice in South Carolina, and it was basically saved by, for generations by slaves. There's a few things like that from South Carolina. The Gullah people, Gullah Geechee, who still exist in great numbers. They're actually fighting because they're wanting to put in, I forget what it is, some manufacturing plant and take their land, but they're fighting that right now in South Carolina. They're trying to do eminent domain crap over there. But they've been working hard to preserve their culture for quite a while. And in doing so, they've also brought out these rice and beans that have been preserved from, back when slavery was around. And there used to be crops that were very popular in Georgia, South Carolina, that kind of went away, but they had been preserved for all these years by the local people. So I had been wanting to get some. I'd looked online forever and ever, could never find it. And then I went to eat at Fortify, and sure enough, it was on their menu. So I was so impressed. Their food in general was pretty awesome. But for lunch, it was very reasonably priced. They've slowed the speed limit down up here. You have a lot of people that come up here on the weekends, and then they're in a hurry to get back to the city. And I've seen some pretty horrific wrecks over the years of coming up here. Chris and I think when we first got married, he'd ask me, where do you see yourself in retirement? I was like, oh, I'd love to retire to the mountains. And then he brought out some really good points. He brought up the fact that once you get up to these mountain areas, you have like no transportation options. It's a little different with Uber, but even up here it can be tough to find transportation options if you're no longer able to drive. So living in a reasonably sized city, you'll always have access to transportation. The other thing was medical. There aren't as many medical options, and a lot of these hospitals, once you get into rural areas, they are not equipped to do like major surgeries. If you need a bypass surgery and you live up here in the mountains, you're going to have to go to Atlanta to get those procedures done. I've seen plenty of people when my dad was a patient in the city, and even him, like he stayed on a boat in South Georgia. He had a house in the metro Atlanta area, but he had a boat that he basically lived on full time. His wife stayed at the house, but he came to Atlanta to get all of his stuff done, and when he had issues, it was in Atlanta. So that's another good reason to not retire to a rural area. And then cost can be more expensive in rural areas, and care. Like there's not as many care options in rural areas. So if you need a nursing home or something like that, it's going to be difficult, especially right now as boomers, some of the biggest generation are getting up there in age. They're, it's getting harder to find good facilities. So, and of course, any coastal beach area, which I absolutely love. I know, like, I don't want to be running from hurricanes. I don't want to be paying higher costs for insurance. Excuse me. Higher cost to live. And the other thing about in the mountains, you have less accessibility to food products, healthy food products. Usually it's a mom and pop grocer. Where your foods are limited. I like a good variety. Cinema here. I don't know how many theaters it has. It looks like it might have a couple. A lot of deer. I'm surprised we haven't seen any deer on this side of the road. Not a live deer, but the other kind of deer. 'Tis the season. Back there at Unicoi, there's a pretty popular waterfall. Toccoa has waterfalls. Tallulah Gorge has waterfalls. There you go. Look at that gorgeous view. So the Appalachian Trail starts in Georgia. Now it starts over more, a little bit to the west. It starts at a place called Springer Mountain. It's the beginning of the Appalachian Trail. And where I used to do primitive camping was right off the Appalachian Trail, not too far from Springer Mountain. So I can say I've hiked some of the Appalachian Trail. Not a lot of it. But I do know one person that did do the full trail. And I picked him up at Springer Mountain. Dude looked rough. He looked really rough. Oh my gosh. They lost one of the hikers. They had a girl going with them. She fell at some point, broke her wrist. So I had to figure out a way to get her, back home. Sean. I just saw we're about to hit 62. And I can buy a national park pass for $80, and it's a lifetime pass. Now, if you lose it, you have to pay for a whole nother replacement. But if it gets damaged, you can get a replacement. And I think I might do that, because if we do some trips out west, we'll be able to get in free to any of the national parks. It also provides for some discounts. You can go to Hollywood up here. Hollywood. But yeah, you can get $80. It's a lifetime pass. And do have to show ID when you go in through the gates, or if it's a unmanned national park, like some are. They can ask for your ID. So we have a national forest up here. And the fee's nominal. I think it's like $2 or something. You self-pay. But some national parks cost a lot more. When we went to Yellowstone, we stayed outside of Yellowstone. So we were having to pay that daily fee to get in, which is fine. It was so worth it. It's absolutely gorgeous. I'd love to go to Yosemite, Bryce Canyon. There's so many places. And I want to go out to New Mexico at some point. So there are a lot of national parks out there that it would be handy to have a pass. place up in this area, in the town of Dillard. And they have a pretty popular place. It's kind of like a home-style dining. And they have all the fried chicken, mashed potatoes, collard greens, all of the stuff. They have these long tables. And it's, like I said, it's very popular. We do Thanksgiving there one year. I think that was my sister-in-law's idea. Because normally she did it, but I think she wanted a break from that. So
there's a stalled vehicle ahead.
It was pretty good food, we'll say. And they hustle in there. They really hustle. Service is great. So here we go, Chattahoochee National Forest. That's what we're in now. So, but if you want to go to any of the parking areas or trails, sometimes there is a fee. All right, it's still here. He's been here a while. Wow. See a gas can. I see some stuff that was hit. Chattahoochee National Forest is pretty big. And very, very beautiful. I don't know if there are bobcat up here. I've never heard bobcat up here. But I know there are bobcat around Athens, and I know there are bobcats in South Georgia. So it's funny, I'm looking at these reflectors on the side of the road, and I was thinking, people are like, why don't we have snow plows? And we used to have, now we're leaving the National Forest. We used to have, in some areas, we used to have reflectors in the middle of the road. Here they have them on the right side of the road. And reflectors are handy also because they will, now this is a turn off to one of my favorite spots, but I'm going to hit that and do that short on my way back. But these reflectors are pretty important because a lot of times, a lot of these roads are pretty dark. You see there are no lights here. So, a lot of times the reflectors, if there's a fire hydrant, the reflectors will, normally they're white, but where there's a fire hydrant, they'll be blue, so that the firefighters, if they're coming to fight a fire, they can easily identify where a hydrant is. Tallulah Gorge. You can get tours to go down to the gorge here. You can hike yourself. It's very beautiful. Now, I've not hiked the gorge here. My understanding is it's a lot of steps.
There are police reported ahead.
And at my age, I can't do that. I can't do that. I really don't have... used to be a strip joint there, believe it or not. Way back in the day. But, Tallulah Gorge State Park. And down below us is the river. They also have an interpretive area. Camping, trails, waterfalls, plural waterfalls. There's several. Yeah, I really have no strength in my left leg. That's why it's hard for me to garden at this point. I can't get down and back up. Hopefully, once I hit 65, I can hit the gym and hopefully try and build some of that up. It's been that way for a while now. As I tore my... Yeah, I had 3 tendons. Well, I tore my trochanter and I tore 2 more tendons in my hip. So it's been a mess for a while now. In the Chattahoochee National Forest. Fire danger is low today. You have the to speak with any rangers. They have a ranger station there. It is good if you're going to come up here to... This is the Tallulah River here. There's RV camping and stuff down on the river. It's gorgeous. Tubing, pools, all kinds of stuff. But it is good to check in with your ranger. If you have them and you're going to be out here camping certain times, because you never know. Could get a torrential flood and be overtaken by water. Could be just some kind of injury when you're hiking, or bear attack. Who knows? But it's always good to check in with the ranger station, and you usually have a form you can fill out saying how long you plan on being there. So you check in and then you check out. That way, if you don't report back on a checkout, then they know to send some people looking for you. Isn't this just gorgeous? I mean, we're not talking huge mountains here, but it's just beautiful. There are quirky places up here. One of my friends, Eric Legge, he's an artist. He's a folk artist. I have some of his paintings. I've known him, gosh. Actually, he was the first artist I ever bought a painting of in 1998, I believe. Is when I bought it, and that's when I started collecting folk art. Yeah, when it was a lot more affordable. Now the prices on a lot of folk art have gone sky high. I don't get out much. I'd never seen that BMW model before. All these new models out on the road that I've never seen. There's another farm over here, kind of like the Jaymore farm. It's Apple some farm maybe. That place is really good. They have some good stuff. It's worth a visit. It's kind of out in the middle of nowhere. It was off a main road. Or not on a main road. Out in the country. I think it was back there to the left. May be confused, but maybe we're in the wrong part. But there's a place up here called in the mountains called Goats on a Roof. That's kind of just like a place to stop, go to the restroom, buy a drink, buy a sandwich. But they actually have a bunch of goats, and they have this really cool setup for the goats, where we are in the town of Wiley, Georgia. How do you do, Mrs. Wiley? All right, if you know that reference, let me know in the comments. That was one of my favorite characters on TV when I was a kid. Oh yeah, but Goats on a Roof, they have these structures built so the goats can climb and hang out, and it's kind of really funny. You can feed the goats. You know, what is it? Those little things where you put a quarter or whatever in and it gives you some food. And, yeah. It's pretty funny. They love the tourists. Dripping off the rocks here. I've been up here in a freeze, and there'll just be a bunch of icicles dangling off a lot of the rocks. Raven Arena. So yeah, Raven is pretty much where Eric Legge, the artist, Legge, that's where he grew up in this area. Toccoa, Raven. He has an art gallery here. And his dad was famous for carving furniture. In fact, there's a place called Chateau Elan. It's a winery. It's a very expensive neighborhood. As well as golf and, stuff like that. They have restaurants and entertainment, multiple restaurants. They have a spa. This is kind of a getaway. They do, people do bridal showers up there, or events. The university or the college used to do a golf tournament up there to raise funds for students. Something they would do, student life or something, and the staff would do a golf tournament up there every year to raise money. Chris would have to work the IT part of it because they all used iPads to keep score and sign in and all that stuff. So he always liked that because he got a free meal out of it. So he'd get a steak meal, and he'd always have a bourbon with that to end the day. So So Julep Farms, that's a new place. Oh, there's goats on a roof. And they're doing some construction over there. They're expanding. Wow. Huh. So we might stop over there on the way back too and do another short film. I thought it was on the right side of the mountains for that. I just thought it was before this area. But I guess it's between Tallulah Falls and Clayton. Especially like the hiking areas around Clayton. There's a road up here called Wild Woman Road, Wild Woman Trail. I have to keep an eye out for it. Or War Woman. There are a lot of funky names up here. So that's the first Walmart in about 80 some miles. So yeah. Not a lot around here. Not a lot of options for things. I don't even think there's a Target up here. I don't recall ever seeing one. But that Walmart's been there long time. Moonrise Distillery. That's been here a while. This is the city of Clayton. This is the thing. There aren't many fancy hotels around here. You have mom and pops. You have Quality Inn. Sonesta Inn and Suites, America's Best Value. And I think a lot of these are also, oh, please, pulling somebody over on the other side. Yeah, so there aren't a lot of hotels around here, and I think a lot of the motels are kind of probably have a lot more locals staying in them. That's the thing. I mean, this is a great place if you want to go camping, but for coming up here, like with somebody like Chris who doesn't like camping, it becomes an issue of finding accommodations. So Clayton, it was established in 1819. Well, they have a huge food bank over there. I'm not surprised. That is a huge food bank. I mean, there just aren't a lot of jobs up here. And that's another reason to, retire to a city. A lot of, believe it or not, I think Atlanta has gotten a bad rap as,
There are police reported ahead.
high crime. There you go. You have the I Market. That's your grocery stores. Ingles, I guess. Ingles Market. That's your one grocery store besides Walmart. But your crime's going to be higher in a lot of these smaller areas. Atlanta is not high on the crime list. It's a lot of the smaller towns in Georgia that are much higher on the crime list. Because you have to do it on a per capita basis. You can't figure statistics out on crime without going into per capita type basis. So a lot of major cities really have low crime compared to outlying rural areas a lot of times. The other thing about rural living, I know there's icicles on the mountains there. Back when my grandparents were alive and living out in the country, they always left a radio going whenever they'd leave the house because they were more likely to get their house broken into because it is so rural. You're living in subdivision neighborhoods, that type of thing, you're less likely to be burglarized because you have so many neighbors watching and out and about. City. It's kind of drab now because everything's there's another no-tell motel down there, another motel motel over there. But yeah, you see it's kind of depressed, but it's not very green right now because obviously it's still fall. The spring, it's really beautiful. Now we have Black Rock Mountain State Park. It's Georgia's highest peak. So Georgia's highest peak would be Brasstown Bald. But I don't think, did I finish telling the story about Eric Leahy's dad? He was notorious for wood carving. He actually carved furniture for one of the rooms at Chateau Elan. Sorry, I get distracted. Because I'm just trying to bring you along on the trip. Kind of like squirrel. So I'm just trying to point out everything as we go along. Now this field down here, this is an agricultural field, and that is part of the local college. Has some little areas they farm in down here for their agricultural department. Off Spies Vineyard is another winery. Now, I will say Chateau Elan, once when they first started their wine growing and wine making, this stuff was terrible. It was like vinegar. It was more like a salad dressing than a wine. But they've really improved, actually. So it isn't easy being a winemaker. I have a flea market over here. That'd probably be a good flea market to hit up. Another police officer. I said they're really out in full force today. It's crazy. Those little Osage farms, local grown produce. In season. So right now they're not growing anything. But they do have a cover crop down. It's probably ryegrass. It's a great source of nitrogen. Kind of keeps your topsoil from washing away or whatever, blowing away. The only thing with using a cover crop like that, you end up having to till it in. So here to the left you have, this is the Rabun Gap Nachuchi School. It's a college prep school founded in 1903. Pre-K through 12. It's quite an extensive campus. It's almost as big as, what was that college campus I did a tour of? It's in one of my videos. There's the Dillard house that I spoke about, where they do the family. They have lodging, chalets, stables, if you like to ride horses. Like a restaurant. I've never seen that before. Interesting. A lot of shops over here, antiques, Christmas shops. There were a couple of Christmas shops. General store, a thrift store across the street. Mexican restaurant, La Cabana. That's the second one I've seen. They must be pretty popular. Las Casualitas. A brand new Piggly Wiggly grocery store looks like it's going in. Maybe. Here's a hotel, Mountain Valley Inn. There's outdoor furniture places. Over here you have on the right all these gardenoasis.org. I don't know why they're .org, but they have all kinds of statues and whirligigs and that type of thing. And Tulip Farms. miles, we'll be in Franklin, North Carolina. Which is where I'm meeting my friend for lunch. It's been a while. It's been a while. Because we don't see each other often, I'm not going to film lunch up here. I'm just going to enjoy the moment. But I'll do some filming of some other places on my way back. Here we are. Welcome to North Carolina.
Welcome to North Carolina.
So I meet my friend right up here, and I really have to go to the restroom, so I'm going to turn this off now. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this little road trip. I do road trips quite often, so I might have to do just a road trip. I need to reorganize my playlist and do, because I have Florida videos, I have Georgia videos, I have some North Carolina videos, Alabama videos. I need to kind of reorganize some of my stuff. But again, thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you like road trips and what brought you here. Asheville is 79 miles from here. Beautiful town. Anyway, love y'all, and I'll see you later. Take care. Goodbye.